Sweetheart, are you okay? Help! Someone help! Stay with me, I've got you.
I'm scared, don't leave me.
Shh, it's okay, I'm right here, I've got you.
Promise?
I promise.
The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Paragon Hotel cast dancing shadows across marble floors as Seoul's elite moved through the lobby in designer suits and couture gowns. Sable Monroe, a pregnant black nurse working in Seoul's Itaewon district, adjusted her medical bag on her shoulder, her navy scrubs a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding her. At 7 months pregnant, she just finished a grueling shift at the nearby community clinic and was cutting through the hotel to catch the subway home. That's when she heard it, a sharp gasp, followed by the unmistakable sound of a small body hitting the floor. A young girl, no more than 8 years old, lay crumpled near the concierge desk. Her white dress pooled around her like fallen petals, and her dark hair obscured her face. People froze, their conversations dying mid-sentence. Several guests pulled out phones, but no one moved to help. Sable's training as a nurse kicked in instantly. She dropped to her knees beside the child, her pregnant belly making the movement awkward, but her hands steady and sure. Her fingers found the girl's wrist, pulse racing but present. The girl's eyelids fluttered, revealing unfocused eyes that stared past Sable into nothing. "I'm a nurse," Sable announced firmly, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "Someone call emergency services, now." The girl began to seize, small tremors that Sable recognized immediately as a hypoglycemic episode. She carefully turned the child onto her side, supporting her head while barking instructions at the stunned onlookers. "Does anyone have orange juice, candy, anything with sugar?" A bellhop scrambled to comply, returning with a bottle of juice from the hotel bar. As the pregnant black nurse coaxed small sips past the girl's lips, tiny fingers suddenly gripped her wrist with surprising strength. "Don't leave me," the child whispered in accented English, tears streaming down her cheeks. I can't see anything." Sable's heart clenched. This blind girl, now saved from immediate danger, still trembled with fear. "I'm right here, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere." The girl's breathing began to stabilize, but she clung to Sable like a lifeline, her small body trembling. Around them, the crowd pressed closer, phones out, whispers growing louder. Someone mentioned security. Another voice said something urgent about the Yoon family, one of Korea's most powerful billionaire dynasties and potential scandal. "That's Yoon Hana," someone whispered, "the daughter of Yoon Yi-wook, the billionaire." But Sable heard none of it. All her focus remained on the frightened blind girl in her arms, whose world had suddenly gone completely dark. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Comment below where you're watching from. In moments of crisis, we discover what we're truly made of. Compassion isn't just a feeling, it's action in the face of fear. Sable could have walked away, let someone else handle it, worried about her own safety or her unborn child. But she chose to step forward. That choice, that moment of selfless courage, was about to change 3 lives forever. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Sable kept her voice soft and steady, even as her own knees ached against the hard marble floor. Her pregnant belly pressed against her thighs as she cradled the child. "H. Hana, Yoon Hana." The girl's fingers dug into Sable's arm. "Everything is black. Why is everything black?" "Sometimes when we get very sick, our body does things that scare us," Sable explained, gently stroking the blind girl's hair. "Your vision might be affected temporarily by what just happened. Can you tell me, has this happened before?" Hana nodded against Sable's chest. "I was born blind, but I could see shapes before, light and dark. Now there's nothing." Sable's medical mind raced. A hypoglycemic episode severe enough to cause complete visual loss in someone with existing vision impairment. This blind girl needed immediate hospital care, and she'd been lucky that a trained nurse happened to be there to save her. Where was her family? Why was a child from Korea's wealthiest billionaire family alone? "My father," Hana whispered, as if reading Sable's thoughts. "He was in a meeting. I got dizzy waiting. I tried to find someone to help, but you collapsed before you could," Sable finished. "You're very brave, Hana, and I promise you I won't leave until your father gets here." Around them, hotel staff had finally sprung into action, clearing the area and setting up a privacy screen. The manager, a thin man with worried eyes, approached cautiously, clearly nervous about the situation involving the daughter of Korea's most powerful billionaire. "The ambulance is 3 minutes away. Miss, we're grateful for your help, but perhaps you should." "I'm staying with her," Sable said firmly, one hand resting on her rounded belly, a reminder that she was a pregnant nurse who'd put herself at risk to help a stranger's child. She needs consistency right now. Familiar voice, familiar presence. Hana's grip tightened in agreement. The manager opened his mouth to argue, then thought better of it. Something in Sable's expression, the fierce protectiveness of a mother, the professional competence of a black nurse who knew exactly what she was doing, made him step back. "Hana, I want you to focus on my voice," Sable said. "Can you describe what you were doing before you felt dizzy?" As the little blind girl talked, describing her day with the innocent detail only children possess, Sable monitored her vitals. Heart rate normalizing, color returning to her cheeks, but the fear in her voice whenever she mentioned the darkness never quite faded. "You have a baby?" Hana asked suddenly, her small hand reaching out to touch Sable's stomach. "Yes, I do. In about 2 months, I'll have a daughter of my own." "Will you teach her to be brave like you?" Sable felt tears prick her eyes. "I'll teach her to be kind. Bravery follows kindness, I think." It's a powerful thing, empathy, the ability to sit with someone in their fear without trying to fix it, to simply be present. In our rush to solve problems, we often forget that sometimes presence is the solution. Sable didn't have all the answers for Hana's condition, couldn't restore her sight or erase her fear. But she could stay. She could hold this frightened child and remind her she wasn't alone. And in that moment, that was everything. The lobby doors burst open with such force that several guests jumped. A man strode in, flanked by 4 security personnel in dark suits. He was tall, Korean, perhaps in his mid-30s, with the kind of presence that made people instinctively step aside. His charcoal suit was immaculate, his dark hair perfectly styled, but his eyes, sharp and intense, held barely contained panic. "Hana," his voice cut through the space like a blade. "Appa," the little girl tried to sit up, still clutching Sable's hand. The man, Yoon Yi-wook, one of Korea's most powerful billionaires and CEO of Yoon Corporation, covered the distance to them in seconds. He dropped to his knees with no regard for his expensive suit, his hands reaching for his daughter's face. "I'm here, sweetheart, I'm here." His English was perfect, accent barely noticeable. Then his eyes landed on Sable, this pregnant black nurse in simple scrubs kneeling beside his daughter, and something flickered across his features. Confusion, assessment, unexpected respect. "Who are you?" "A nurse who happened to be passing through," Sable replied calmly, meeting the Korean billionaire's intense gaze. "Your daughter had a severe hypoglycemic episode. I've stabilized her, but she needs immediate hospital care." One of the security guards stepped forward, his hand outstretched as if to pull the pregnant black nurse away from the billionaire's daughter. "Sir, we should." "Don't," Hana's voice rose in panic, her hands grasping at Sable. "Don't make her leave. Please, Appa, she saved me, she stayed." Yi-wook raised a hand, and the guard immediately stepped back. His gaze returned to Sable, this time with something that might have been respect. Here was a black woman, heavily pregnant, who'd risked her own well-being to save a stranger's child. The beginning of an unexpected connection, what some might call an AMBW romance, though neither of them knew it yet. "You stayed with her," he said. It wasn't a question. "Of course I did. She's a child who was frightened and alone." "Do you know who I am?" Sable blinked, genuinely confused. "Should I?" For the first time, something like surprise crossed the Korea billionaire's face. Around them, she could hear people whispering, "Yoon Corporation. Richest family in Seoul. Billions." But Sable had never paid much attention to that world. She treated patients, not bank accounts. "No," he said finally, and there was an odd note in his voice. "I suppose you shouldn't." He looked down at his daughter, his jaw tight with emotion. "Thank you for taking care of her." The ambulance arrived, and suddenly everyone was in motion. Paramedics, security, hotel staff, all moving with choreographed precision around Korea's most powerful billionaire and his daughter. But as they prepared to load Hana onto the stretcher, the blind girl reached out, her hand finding Sable's. "Will you come with us, please?" Yi-wook's eyes met Sable's over his daughter's head. She could see the question there, the uncertainty. This was a man used to control, used to knowing exactly what to do. But right now, his daughter needed something he couldn't provide, the comfort of the stranger who'd held her when the world went dark. "I'll come," Sable said softly, "if your father agrees." For a long moment, the Korean billionaire studied the pregnant black nurse before him. He saw her simple scrubs, her worn medical bag, the tired shadows under her eyes that came from pulling double shifts to save for her baby's arrival. But he also saw her unwavering compassion, her professional competence, her genuine care for his daughter. "Please," he said, and the word seemed to cost him something. "Join us." In a world often dominated by wealth and status, integrity stands out like a beacon. Sable wasn't asking for anything. She didn't know about Yi-wook's empire, didn't care about his connections or his power. She simply saw a frightened child and chose compassion. And for a man who was constantly surrounded by people wanting something from him, that simple honesty was more valuable than gold. The private wing of Seoul National University Hospital was nothing like the community clinic where Sable worked. Everything gleamed, from the marble reception desk to the state-of-the-art medical equipment visible through open doors. Doctors moved with quiet efficiency, and every staff member seemed to recognize the Korea billionaire on site. Sable stayed in the background as specialists examined Hana, but the blind girl refused to let go of the pregnant black nurse's hand. Finally, the lead physician, a distinguished woman in her 50s, turned to Yi-wook with barely concealed curiosity. "Mr. Yoon, who is this woman? Hospital policy states that only family." "She is with us," the Korean billionaire said flatly. "That will be all." The doctor's lips thinned, but she nodded and left. Sable felt Yi-wook's eyes on her, this unexpected connection between a Korea billionaire and a black nurse already causing whispers. "You really don't know, do you?" he asked. "Know what?" He gestured around them, at the private floor reserved for Korea's wealthiest families, the hovering staff, the view of Seoul's skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. "What all of this means, who I am." Sable shrugged, adjusting her position in the chair. Her back was aching, and the baby was particularly active tonight. "I know you're Hana's father. I know you love her very much. That's all that matters, isn't it?" Something in the billionaire's expression softened at the pregnant nurse's simple honesty. "When you put it that way," he sat down beside her, careful to maintain appropriate distance. "How far along are you?" 7 months, it's a girl." "Congratulations. Is your husband here? I could have someone call." "No husband," Sable said simply. "Just me and my daughter will be fine." She saw the calculation in his eyes, the assumptions forming and then being dismissed. This was new territory for both of them, an Asian man and black woman from completely different worlds, finding common ground through a child's crisis. The beginning of what might become an AMBW romance, though neither would have labeled it that way yet. He wanted to ask more, she could tell, but Hana stirred, calling for both of them. Over the next few hours, as doctors ran tests and the blind girl drifted in and out of sleep, the pregnant black nurse and the Korean billionaire talked in quiet voices. She told him about her work at the community clinic, about saving every extra one for her daughter's arrival, about being a black American nurse working in Seoul. He told her about Hana's mother, who had died giving birth, about raising a daughter alone while running a corporation, about the loneliness of being Korea's most powerful billionaire. The blindness was from complications during delivery, he explained, his voice rough. She's had partial vision until now, if this episode has taken even that. The doctors seem optimistic that it's temporary, Sable offered. The brain does remarkable things when it heals. You're very calm about all of this. Most people would be overwhelmed. I'm a nurse in a public clinic. I've learned to stay calm in chaos. She smiled slightly. Though I'll admit, I've never been in a hospital wing where the water pitcher is probably worth more than my monthly rent. He laughed, an actual laugh that transformed his serious features. The water pitcher is leased. Even I'm not that extravagant. If you're captivated by this high society drama, hit that like button and comment your favorite part so far. True admiration doesn't come from wealth or status. It comes from recognizing character in another person, their integrity, their kindness, their strength. Yiwook was beginning to see that Sable possessed something rare in his world, genuine selflessness. She didn't want anything from him. She was there because a child needed her, because her moral compass pointed toward helping others regardless of personal cost. And for a man who'd built walls around himself and his daughter, that authenticity was starting to breach his carefully constructed defenses. The tension began the next morning when Sable arrived at work, still exhausted from the long night at the hospital. She'd stayed until 3 a.m., only leaving after the blind girl finally fell into a deep, peaceful sleep with both her father and the pregnant black nurse promising they'd return. Well. Dr. Kim, the clinic director, stood in the doorway of the break room, arms crossed. I saw the news this morning. Quite the hero, aren't you? Sable's stomach dropped. News. He tossed a tablet onto the break table. The headlines screamed in Korean and English. Mystery pregnant black nurse saves blind daughter of Korea billionaire Yoon Yiwook. Identity unknown. Below it, another headline read, AMBW romance brewing. Yoon Corporation CEO spotted with unknown black woman. The photos were grainy but clear enough. Sable kneeling beside Hana in the hotel lobby. The pregnant black nurse in the ambulance beside Korea's most powerful billionaire. Sable walking into the hospital beside Yiwook. The comments section was already exploding with speculation about an interracial romance between the Korea billionaire and the mysterious black nurse. I was just doing my job, Sable said quietly, trying to ignore the invasive speculation about a potential AMBW relationship. Your job is here at this clinic, not moonlighting for billionaires. Dr. Kim's voice was sharp. We have standards, Monroe. We can't have our staff involved in saving a child's life. Sable's exhaustion was giving way to anger. Should I have walked past her? Let the blind girl seize on the floor. Don't be dramatic. I'm simply saying that this kind of publicity, a pregnant black nurse and a Korea billionaire, it's going to bring attention we don't need. Isn't the kind we want associated with our clinic, Sable finished. Because I'm pregnant and unmarried, or because the family I helped is too wealthy for us, or because people are making assumptions about me and a Korean man. The silence was deafening. Before Dr. Kim could respond, Sable's phone buzzed, an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. Miss Monroe, this is Secretary Park, calling on behalf of Mr. Yoon Yiwook. The voice was crisp, professional. Mr. Yoon would like to request your presence at the hospital today. His daughter, the young blind girl you saved, has been asking for you. He's prepared to compensate you for your time. I don't want compensation, Sable interrupted, but I'll come after my shift. Tell him I'll be there by 7. She hung up to find Dr. Kim staring at her. Be careful, he said, his tone shifting to something almost concerned. These people, they're not like us. A Korea billionaire and a black nurse. Today you're useful. Tomorrow, when the novelty wears off, he shrugged. Just be careful, especially with all this AMBW romance talk. The media will eat you alive. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of whispers and sidelong glances. Her coworkers weren't unkind, but the attention made the pregnant black nurse uncomfortable. One colleague pulled her aside to ask if she was really dating the Korean billionaire. Another wanted to know if AMBW couples faced as much scrutiny as people said. By the time she reached the hospital that evening, Sable was ready to turn around and go home. But then she stepped into Hana's room and saw the blind girl's face light up. You came, Appa, she came. The Korea billionaire rose from the chair beside the bed. He looked exhausted, his tie loosened, his usually perfect hair slightly disheveled. but he smiled when he saw the pregnant black nurse. "Thank you for coming, Miss Monroe." "Sable," she corrected, "and I promised Hannah I would." Conflict reveals character. When faced with criticism and judgment, we can retreat, or we can stand firm in our values. Sable chose the harder path, not seeking approval or validation, but simply doing what she believed was right. Patience and empathy guided her response to Dr. Kim's concerns, understanding that his fears came from a place of wanting to protect the clinic's reputation. But she wouldn't apologize for her compassion. Some things are worth the cost. 3 days later, Sable was helping Hannah navigate her hospital room when the little girl suddenly stopped, swaying on her feet. "Hannah," Sable's hand went to the child's shoulder. "What's wrong?" "I feel dizzy again." The words were barely out before Hannah crumpled. Sable caught her, but the sudden weight made her stumble. At 7 months pregnant, her center of balance was already compromised. She managed to lower both of them to the floor, cradling Hannah while reaching for the call button. "Nurse, we need." The door burst open, but it wasn't a nurse. Yi-wook must have been just outside. In an instant, he was there, taking Hannah's weight from Sable's arms. "What happened?" "Same as before, possible hypoglycemic episode. She needs glucose now." Medical staff flooded the room. In the chaos, Yi-wook helped Sable to a chair, his hands surprisingly gentle. "Are you all right, the baby?" "We're fine," Sable assured him, though her hands were shaking. "I just need a moment." She watched the doctors work, her professional assessment nodding their competence even as her heart raced. This wasn't supposed to happen again. They'd adjusted Hannah's medication, changed her diet. What were they missing? "It's stress," Sable said suddenly. "Her body is reacting to stress." One of the doctors looked up, frowning. "We've considered." "No, I mean emotional stress, trauma." Sable struggled to her feet, moving to Hannah's bedside. The little girl was conscious now, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Hannah, sweetheart, what were you thinking about before you felt dizzy?" I was scared," Hannah whispered. "What if my eyes never work again? What if I can't see light anymore? What if you become completely blind?" Sable finished softly. "That's a terrifying thought." "Miss Monroe," the doctor began, "I don't think." "When was the last time she spoke to a child psychologist?" Sable asked, looking at Yi-wook. "When did she last talk about her fears about her vision?" The man's face went blank. We don't. We focus on the medical." "Her mind is part of her medical care." Sable kept her voice gentle, but firm. "She's 8 years old, facing the possibility of complete blindness. That's not just a physical challenge, it's an emotional earthquake. Her body is manifesting her fear." The room fell silent. Then slowly, Yi-wook nodded. "Set it up," he told his secretary, who'd appeared in the doorway. "The best child psychologist in Seoul. I want them here tomorrow." That night, after Hannah had fallen asleep and the doctors had left, Yi-wook walked Sable to her car. The hospital parking garage was quiet, their footsteps echoing. "You see things others don't," he said finally. "I see people, not just patients. There's a difference." "Hannah's mother," he paused, struggling with words. "She was very ill during the pregnancy. I was so focused on the physical complications, on saving them both, that I didn't think about what the experience was doing to her emotionally. She suffered from severe postpartum depression. I missed it. I was so busy trying to fix the medical problems that I didn't see the pain underneath." "You can't blame yourself for that." "Can I?" His voice was raw. "I failed her, I won't fail Hannah." Sable touched his arm, a brief gesture of comfort. "You're here now, you're listening now, that's what matters." In moments of crisis, we often discover strengths we didn't know we possessed. But we also confront our vulnerabilities, our fears, our limitations, our past failures. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. Both Sable and Yi-wook were learning this lesson. She, by continuing to show up even as her own pregnancy made her physically vulnerable. He, by facing the emotional truth he'd been avoiding. That loving someone means being willing to see all of them, including the parts that hurt. The media attention intensified over the following week. Somehow, Reporters had discovered the pregnant black nurse's full identity, her address, even her workplace. They camped outside the clinic, shouting invasive questions whenever she tried to enter or leave. "Miss Monroe, are you in a relationship with Korea billionaire Yoon Yi-wook? Is this an AMBW romance? How did you meet? Is the baby his? Did you save the blind girl to get close to her billionaire father? How much is the Korea billionaire paying you?" The questions were invasive, cruel, laced with racist and classist assumptions about a black nurse and an Asian billionaire. But Sable kept her head down and kept working. What choice did she have? Then came the morning she arrived to find her locker broken into, her personal items scattered. Nothing stolen, but the message was clear. Someone had access. Someone was watching the pregnant black nurse who'd caught a billionaire's attention. She was still shaking when her phone rang. "Sable," Yi-wook's voice was tense. "I've just heard about the harassment at your workplace, the media attention on you, the speculation about us. This is unacceptable." "It's fine, I can handle." "No, it's not fine, and I'm responsible. They're targeting you because you saved Hana, because you're—" He paused. "Because you're a black woman who helped my daughter, and they can't understand that without creating scandal. I won't let them hurt you for being kind." He took a breath. "I have a proposition. My home has a medical wing. It's where Hana, my blind daughter, usually receives her care. I'd like to hire you as her private nurse during her recovery. The position would include accommodation in the guest house, full medical benefits, and a salary that—" "I can't accept that," the pregnant black nurse interrupted. "Why not?" "Because it looks like exactly what those reporters are implying. Like I used this situation for personal gain. Like this AMBW romance they keep writing about is real, and I'm some kind of gold digger." "Who cares what they think?" the Korea billionaire asked, frustration evident. "I do," the words came out more forcefully than she intended. "I care because my daughter will grow up in this world. I care because my integrity is all I have to give her. I care because—" her voice broke. "Because I won't have people thinking I'm some kind of opportunist, some black woman who trapped a rich Asian man." The line was quiet for a moment. Then, "What if it's not about you? What if it's about Hana? She's improving with you here. The psychologist confirmed what you said. Her episodes are stress-induced. Your presence calms my blind daughter. Would you let your pride prevent her healing?" It was a low blow, and they both knew it. But it was also true. "1 month," Sable said finally. "I'll help until she's stable. Then I go back to my life." 1 month, the billionaire agreed. "And Sable, the guest house has complete privacy, its own entrance, its own everything. You won't have to see me at all if you don't want to." But that was the problem, wasn't it? The pregnant black nurse was starting to want to see the Korean billionaire. This AMBW connection was becoming real, whether she was ready for it or not. The move happened quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. Within 2 days, Sable found herself in a guest house that was bigger than any apartment she'd ever lived in. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a private garden. The nursery, already set up for her daughter by the thoughtful Korea billionaire, was something from a magazine. "This is too much," she told Yi-wook when he came to check on her settling in. "It's what you deserve." "You don't know what I deserve." He stepped closer, and she caught the scent of his cologne, subtle, expensive. "I know you risked your own health to save my blind daughter. I know you've shown up every day despite harassment and judgment from people who can't accept an AMBW relationship, even a friendship. I know you see Hana as a person, not a paycheck." His eyes held hers. "That tells me everything I need to know about what you deserve." The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither was quite ready to name. The potential for real AMBW romance hung in the air. Then Hana's voice called from the main house, breaking the spell. "Is Sable here yet? Appa, is she here?" The Korea billionaire smiled, the expression transforming his usually serious face. "Yes, sweetheart, she's here." Taking responsibility isn't just about fixing problems. It's about recognizing when our actions affect others and stepping up to protect them. Yi-wook could have let Sable face the media storm alone, could have kept his distance to avoid further speculation. Instead, he chose to act, to use his resources not to control or impress her, but to keep her safe. And in doing so, he demonstrated a quality that true leadership requires: the willingness to be judged for doing what's right. Loving this story? Share it with friends and let us know where you're watching from in the comments. The crisis came on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks into the pregnant black nurse's stay at the Korea billionaire's estate. She'd been reading to Hana before bed. The blind girl's vision had improved to the point where she could now see light and shadow, a development that had brought tears to all their eyes. Hana had finally fallen asleep, curled around her favorite stuffed rabbit, when Sable felt it. A sharp pain in her abdomen, then wetness. No, not now. Not yet. The pregnant nurse wasn't due for another month. Sable managed to get to the guest house bathroom before her water broke completely. Her hands shook as she dialed the Korea billionaire's number. "Sable, what's wrong?" "The baby, it's coming." She heard him bark orders to someone in Korean, heard running footsteps. Then he was at her door, and despite everything, despite her plan to keep professional boundaries in this unexpected AMBW relationship, she'd never been so grateful to see anyone in her life. How far apart are the contractions? 5 minutes, maybe less. Another pain hit, and the pregnant black nurse gripped the doorframe. "My car is all ready." "No time, we need to call the ambulance," but Yi-wook. She looked at the Korea billionaire, fear naked on her face. "It's too early, something's wrong." His hands cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Listen to me. You are the strongest, most capable woman I've ever met, the nurse who saved my blind daughter without hesitation. And you're not alone. Do you understand? You're not alone." The next hours were a blur. The Korean billionaire stayed with the pregnant black nurse through every contraction, never flinching when she crushed his hand, never leaving even when the doctors tried to remove him from the delivery room. "She wants me here," he said flatly to the medical staff, and no one argued with Korea's most powerful billionaire. But complications arose. The baby was breech. Sable's blood pressure spiked dangerously. The doctor was talking about an emergency C-section when Sable felt Yi-wook's hand tighten around hers. "Tell me about your daughter," he said urgently. "What will you name her?" "What?" She could barely think through the pain. "Her name. Tell me her name." "Maya," the pregnant black nurse gasped. "It means miracle." "Maya," the Korea billionaire repeated. "Your miracle, and she's going to be fine because miracles happen, Sable. I've seen it. You made one happen for my blind daughter. Now let us help you." She didn't remember much of the surgery, just the blessed relief when the pain stopped and then crying. A baby's cry, strong and healthy. "You have a daughter, Miss Monroe," the doctor said, smiling. "Small but perfect." When they placed Maya in her arms, the black nurse looked up to find the Korean billionaire's eyes wet with tears. "Thank you," she whispered, "for staying." "Always," he said, and she knew he meant it. This AMBW romance, whether they'd admitted it or not, was real. Later, much later, after both Sable and Maya had been cleared as healthy and had been moved to a private recovery room, the Korea billionaire brought his blind daughter to meet the baby. "Can I hold her?" Hana asked, her partially restored vision allowing her to make out the tiny bundle in Sable's arms. "Very carefully," the black nurse said, helping the little girl settle into a chair before placing Maya in her lap. Hana's face, radiant with joy, was something Sable would never forget. And when she looked up at Yi-wook, the Korean billionaire who'd become so much more, she saw the same emotion reflected in his eyes. This was family, not by blood, not by legal definition, but by choice, by love. An AMBW family built on compassion and courage. In our highest pressure moments, when everything seems to be falling apart, we discover what we truly value. Love reveals itself not in grand gestures but in quiet acts of presence, staying when it's hard, showing up when it hurts, choosing someone else's well-being over our own comfort. Yi-wook could have waited in the lobby, could have kept his distance. But he chose to be there, to hold Sable's hand through her fear, to remind her she wasn't alone. And in that choice, he showed the truest form of courage, vulnerability. The days following Maya's birth passed in a gentle haze. Sable recovered in the guest house, with Yi-wook insisting she have round-the-clock help. But the help wasn't intrusive, just a day nurse to assist with Maya while Sable rested, and meals delivered at regular intervals. What surprised her most was Yi-wook's constant presence. He'd stop by in the mornings before work, bringing Hana to visit her new sister. He'd return in the evenings with takeout, claiming he was tired of eating alone. He'd sit with Sable while she fed Maya, talking about everything and nothing. His childhood in Seoul, her grandmother's stories of Louisiana, dreams they'd had and given up on. "Why did you become a nurse?" he asked one evening as they watched the sunset from her terrace. "My grandmother raised me. She got sick when I was 16, cancer, the nurses at her hospice. They were angels. They saw her as a person, not a patient number. They held her hand when I couldn't be there. They made her laugh even when she was in pain." Sable adjusted Maya in her arms. "I wanted to be that for someone else, to see people really see them the way those nurses saw my grandmother." "You do," Yi-wook said softly. "You saw Hana when everyone else saw a PR crisis. You saw me when all most people see is a bank account." "What do you mean?" He leaned back in his chair, eyes distant. "After my wife died, people changed around me. Business partners treated me differently. Friends disappeared or became awkwardly attentive. Everyone either pitied me or wanted something from me. For years, I've been the grieving widower or the wealthy target, never just Yi-wook. And with me. With you, I'm Hana's father, a man trying to do right by his daughter, a person who makes mistakes and tries to fix them." He looked at her. "You make me want to be better, not wealthier or more powerful, just better." The honesty in his voice made Sable's throat tight. "The month is almost up," she said quietly. "I should be thinking about going back to my apartment, to work. Or you could stay." "Yi-wook." "Not as an employee, not as a charity case." He moved to kneel beside her chair, his eyes level with hers. "Stay because Hana loves you. Stay because Maya deserves to grow up in a home where she's cherished. Stay because—" he took a breath. "Because I'm falling in love with you and I hope you might feel the same." Sable's heart pounded. This is complicated. Life is complicated. Love is simple. People will talk. They'll say terrible things. Let them. I stopped caring what people think the day Hana collapsed and a pregnant stranger saved her life. That stranger showed me what real strength looks like, what integrity looks like. His hand covered hers. What love looks like. Maya chose that moment to make a small sound, and they both laughed, the tension breaking. "I need time," Sable said finally, "to think, to be sure." "Take all the time you need. I'll be here." Trust isn't built in grand moments but in small, consistent actions over time. It's showing up day after day. It's being honest even when the truth is hard. It's respecting boundaries while making intentions clear. Yi-wook could have pressured Sable, could have used his resources or influence to sway her decision. Instead, he offered honesty and patience. He gave her the space to choose freely. And that respect, that emotional intelligence, was worth more than any declaration of love. Sable's decision came not in a single moment, but in a series of small ones. It came when Hana's vision fully returned 2 weeks later, and the blind girl's first question was, "Where's Sable?" It came when Maya smiled for the first time, and the black nurse's immediate instinct was to share the moment with the Korean billionaire. It came when she found him late one night in Maya's nursery, the powerful Korea billionaire holding her daughter while humming a Korean lullaby, tears streaming down his face. "What's wrong?" Sable whispered from the doorway. "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right." He looked at her, this powerful man rendered vulnerable by love. "I was just thinking about all the things I missed with Hana, all the moments I was too scared or too busy to fully experience. And here you are giving me a second chance, letting me be part of this, of her." The pregnant black nurse, no longer pregnant but forever changed, crossed to him, taking Maya from his arms and settling her back in the crib. Then she turned to the Korea billionaire and took his hands. "I love you," she said simply. I fought it because it seemed impossible, because the world will judge us, because people can't understand an AMBW romance without making it scandalous. But none of that matters as much as this. You see me. Not what I can give you or who I can be for Hana. Just me. The woman I am, scars and strength and everything in between. I do see you, the Korean billionaire said, pulling her closer. I see your courage and your compassion. I see how you saved my blind daughter without hesitation. I see the mother you're becoming, the person you've always been. His forehead touched hers. And I love every part of what I see. Black, American, nurse, mother, woman, all of you. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. The beginning of a real AMBW romance, built on mutual respect and genuine love. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. So you'll stay? The Korea billionaire asked. We'll stay, Sable corrected, glancing at Maya's crib. But on one condition. Anything. We do this, right? I'm not a secret or a scandal. I'm your partner. Equal. Not because of what you give me, but because of what we build together. This AMBW relationship will face enough scrutiny without us hiding. Equal, he agreed. Partners. And Yi-wook, I'm keeping my job at the clinic. Part-time, but I'm keeping it. I need to be more than just someone's partner or someone's mother. I need to be me, Sable Monroe, the black nurse who helps people. The billionaire kissed her forehead. I would never ask you to be anything less than who you are. Your work, your passion for helping people, that's part of what I love. The next morning, they told Hana together. The blind girl who could now see again, whose life had been saved by a compassionate black nurse, reacted with pure, uncomplicated joy. Does this mean Maya is really my sister now? And Sable is? Are you going to be my mom? Sable knelt down to Hana's level. I can never replace your mother, but I promise to love you like you're my own, if you'll let me. Hana threw her arms around the black nurse's neck. I was hoping you'd say that. I love you, Sable. I love you too, sweetheart. Love, real love, doesn't ask us to diminish ourselves. It doesn't demand we sacrifice our dreams or our identity. True love sees us completely, our strengths and weaknesses, our passions and fears, and says yes to all of it. Mutual respect transcends social barriers, economic divides, racial differences, and cultural expectations. What matters is not where we come from, but where we're going together. This black nurse and Korean billionaire came from different worlds, but they were building a new one together. An AMBW romance founded on understanding, equality, and a love that honored who they each were as individuals. 6 months later, Sable Monroe, the black nurse who'd once been pregnant and alone, stood on the terrace of what had once been the guest house and was now her home, watching the sunset paint Seoul's skyline in shades of gold and pink. Maya gurgled contentedly in her arms, while inside she could hear Yi-wook, Korea's most powerful billionaire, helping Hana, the blind girl who could now see, with her homework. The media frenzy had eventually died down. The headline-grabbing Korea billionaire and his pregnant black nurse story, the endless speculation about their AMBW romance, had been replaced by more recent scandals. And as the noise faded, what remained was the truth. A family built not on convention but on choice. Sable still worked at the clinic 2 days a week, treating patients who couldn't afford private care. The black nurse refused to give up her calling, even as the wife of a billionaire. Yi-wook had started a foundation in his late wife's name, focusing on medical care for children with disabilities, inspired by the blind girl who'd been saved and the compassionate nurse who'd refused to walk away. Hana's sight was fully restored, and the once blind girl had become a fierce advocate for other children facing similar challenges, often joining Sable at the clinic to help with pediatric patients. And Maya, Miracle Maya, was growing surrounded by love in this AMBW family that defied every expectation. There you are. Yi-wook, the Korean billionaire who'd found love with a black nurse, stepped onto the terrace, sliding an arm around Sable's waist. Dinner's almost ready. Hana made kimchi jjigae all by herself. Should I be worried? He laughed. Probably, but we'll eat it anyway and tell her it's delicious. You're getting soft, Mr. Yoon. Only with you, Miss Monroe. He kissed her temple. Only with you. As they stood there, watching the day surrender to night, Sable reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. It had started with a choice: to help a stranger, to save a blind girl, to show compassion when walking away would have been easier. That single act by a pregnant black nurse had rippled outward, changing 3 lives in ways she could never have imagined, creating an AMBW romance that would inspire others. "Do you ever regret it?" the Korea billionaire asked, as if reading her thoughts. "Stopping that day, everything that came after." The black nurse looked up at him, then down at Maya, then through the window at Hana, her found daughter, her chosen family, the blind girl saved who'd saved them all in return. "Not for a single second," she said. And she meant it. Thank you for watching this high society AMBW billionaire romance. If you loved the story of how a pregnant black nurse saved a blind girl and found love with Korea's most powerful billionaire, like, share, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe for more gripping AMBW romance stories. In the end, this story isn't really about wealth or status, dramatic rescues, or forbidden love. It's about something much simpler and infinitely more powerful: the human capacity for compassion. Compassion sees a blind girl in need and stops to help. Compassion doesn't see race or social class. It sees a pregnant black nurse and a Korean billionaire as simply 2 people capable of love. Compassion recognizes that AMBW romance, like any true love, isn't limited by circumstance or background. Compassion builds bridges where others see only barriers. When we act with genuine kindness, when we help others without expecting anything in return, we create possibilities we never could have imagined. We touch lives. We change trajectories. We build families and futures and love stories that transcend every boundary the world tries to impose. Sable's courage in that hotel lobby didn't just save a blind girl's life. It opened a door to a future none of them could have predicted. A future built on mutual respect, genuine understanding, and an AMBW love that honored each person's truth. That's the real miracle. Not the wealth, not the happy ending, but the reminder that compassion, simple, honest compassion, has the power to transform everything. A pregnant black nurse saw a blind girl who needed help. A Korea billionaire saw a woman of integrity and strength. They all saw each other as human beings deserving of love. May we all have the courage to stop, to help, to love without reservation. May we see each other not as means to an end, but as human beings deserving of dignity, respect, and care. And may we remember that the smallest acts of kindness can create the most profound change. This is the lesson Sable and Yiwook learned. This is the legacy they'll pass to Hana and Maya. And perhaps, if we're willing to listen, it can be our lesson too.